Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else, don't make me turn this website around. We're going to talk to, I guess they want to be called, he wants to be called SkepticSloth this time. SkepticSloth, how are you, my friend?
Hi.
How you doing, Jimmy? Hi, Katy.
Oh, I'm hanging out.
Yeah, so this was actually the new gamer tag I came up with in honor of your sloth shaming video.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I shamed the hell out of those sloths. Katy, you know what he's talking about? Of course you don't. We established beforehand she doesn't watch my show because, and this is true,
Nor should she.
I mentioned my fish and she was like, "What fish?" And it's like the whole channel now. It's the only good part of the show. Anyway, but it's good to hear. Good to hear, SkepticSloth. What did you want to chat about?
Yeah, this will be a quick one. So I wanted to introduce you and invite you to watch a documentary that's actually available on Netflix called Abducted in Plain Sight. It's the true story about a woman that I know from here. She's actually friends with my dad. And she comes from a Mormon family in Idaho, where a family friend kind of weaseled his way into gaining their trust, abducted her, and when they got her back, he wooed them, and then he abducted the daughter again.
Jesus.
And so I want to talk about if you think that I think that there's kind of a crazy relationship between the but the way that people think that leads them to believe in a religion like Mormon, that makes them vulnerable to predators like this guy that got into their home not once but twice. And maybe like what's one of the craziest things that you know personally that a person's been led to believe because of also believing in the Mormon church. Like my own grandmother believes that the explanation for why modern day humans have much shorter lives than Adam and Eve and Methuselah and all them was that they bred with monkeys. They bred with primates. And so we are not genetic descendants. Our DNA's been sullied, and that's why we live much shorter lives.
Whereas my family just thinks like they're just like, yeah, God, magic. That's why the longer lives. So as far as like the funny thing is it's actually the other end of the spectrum that concerns me more, because on this radical end of the spectrum, you're talking about things that happen occasionally. But what happens more often and more frequently on the other end with things that seem less extreme, these things where people are like, oh, this is harmless, aren't harmless because they basically stoke gullibility. So you have people that are like, oh, I'm really into astrology, I'm really into crystals, I'm really into mediums and going to psychics and all of this stuff. And there are billion-dollar industries surrounding this that are like, okay, we get a person like this, and then we go to that, we go to the next level with the next level. And you see cults like Mormonism, like Scientology, and others who are more radical, who are like, oh, that person believes in that. This is a person I have a chance with, because they're not consciously thinking gullible, but it's why they seem primed.
I was going to say that there's definitely an overlap with things like MLMs and like essential oils and all this kind of stuff targeting churches, isn't there? Because, I mean, I don't necessarily know they're consciously thinking, oh, because they go to church, that means they'll be more gullible. But they notice that that's where their base is. You know, they're the people who react best to it.
Utah's the MLM capital of the world because Mormons love MLMs because they're like, what? I just do Mormonism again, but this time with things that smell, or this time with, it's so similar. And Mormonism itself is set up in similar ways. It doesn't surprise me at all that MLMs and Mormonism are so intertwined because they use similar things. As far as things that are just really silly beliefs where that you can sell anything to people, even when you think back to like the origin of the Mormon church in the early 19th century, you're talking about people that were like, yeah, I'm going to follow this guy. No, he's great. What's that? What? There are Quakers on the moon? Okay. All right. Yeah. I believe it. Oh, and people live on the sun? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Like these are literally things Joseph Smith and Brigham Young taught, was Quakers on the moon who were like tall. They might not have been 8 feet tall. They might have just been 6 feet tall. 6-foot Quakers on the moon, and then also people living on the sun. And you're just like, wow, that cult somehow didn't break down. It's kind of bizarre. You would think that some people would start getting an idea. Huh?
I was just saying, it's pretty mad hearing some of the religions that do survive, because you do think when you imagine, oh, how crazy a cult could I come up with? What's the craziest thing I could come up with which would still survive? And if I didn't know about some of the things like Scientology and Mormonism, I wouldn't have gone that crazy. I wouldn't have ever come up with, if I said there were people living on the sun, I would assume that everyone would be like, oh, that's not for me then, because that's obviously nonsense. But I guess.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, relating to the question, or the topic you brought up, it's when you teach certain patterns of thinking in order to get people believing in your religion, often that pattern of thinking that you have learnt, very strongly, you can just pick up and lift and apply to something completely different. And all the processes and rationalizations you do in order to feel good about your religion then ends up justifying something else. And that's I guess why you're susceptible to it.
I also, real quick, I need to say to my producer, David, you need to go into the stream settings and turn off the second stream. You left Shannon's up, and it looks like we are currently streaming out on Shannon's channel as well. And while I enjoy the idea of taking over her stuff with her having no say, it seems like it could backfire. Yeah. Hey, all of you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Anyway, you're gonna want to fix that. Well, Shannon's actually over here watching. Apparently, didn't notice that her own channel has gone live, unless she missed it. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, Dave, if you'll fix that little shebang there. Anyway, I made a video. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Let me see. Mormon beliefs, Jimmy Snow. That's literally just top 10 weird facts about Mormons. They believe Cain is Bigfoot, though not all of them do now. There are a lot of people who deny it, but I was definitely taught that. They believe the Quakers and the moon thing. There's just a lot of weird stuff in there. So I did 10 of them if people want to see what some of just the exclusively odd stuff are. And I like going back to that video every now and then and looking through the comments to see some Mormon that's like, oh, this is all taken way out of context. And they always speak as though I don't know the religion. And it's funny to me. Anyway, SkepticSloth. That what you were looking for?
Yep, I just wanted to give you a little bit of thought on that and invite you to watch that documentary, and anyone else that's actually a fascinating, sad but true story. And it does have a happy ending. She ended up, she's an adult woman. She has a happy life. It's a good story.
Good deal. I don't know. Perfect. All right. Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.